Hey everyone, one of the things I keep running into quite a bit is just people's attitude when they're doing their job. And I'm not going to sit here and make excuses how, I've worked at multiple different jobs over the years. I've done everything from factory work, truck driving. And as I said in another video, I worked at a children's home for a time, which I have no idea how that happened. um, I don't know what they were thinking of that, but hey, I was working there for a little bit, and right now, I'm back to working at a factory, and my even is the place where I'm working. For the region, it's considered one of the top employers. They take care of their employees very well, and unfortunately, there's still a lot of employees who look at it and they are just bitter for whatever reason. This job sucks. This job stinks. I'm tired of this. Or they come in, they find out they have to do a job that it's just not to their liking. Maybe it's just too hot. Maybe it's just too cold. Whatever the reason is, people are not happy about it. And it bewilders me at times when you have a good employer who's paying you industry standard, bare minimum industry standard, in some cases more than industry standard, and yet you're not happy about it. Now, don't get me wrong, especially where I live right now, it's, cost of housing is astronomical. I was actually just recently looking at some prices on Craigslist for my area on housing, looking at new apartments, trying to get something that was a little bit better. And I was just dumbfounded. I was looking at almost twice the rent that I'm paying right now for what I have. And to me, that was just mind-boggling. And I can understand we are in a housing crisis right now. But that's not an excuse to go off and to have, a bad attitude about work. And one of the biggest people that I feel horrific for, I think it's a great job to start off with. And there's some people, they can adapt their personality to this particular job. That's customer service, or food service workers, customer service workers. There are some people, they just thrive at those jobs, and a person can have a customer can have a real bad attitude, and it's like water off of a duck's back. They're just sitting there, and they can just they don't take it personally, and they just go and go and go, and yeah, it might have been rough, but they get through it. And it also doesn't help that and I can understand the attitude with it, and I also understand that with a lot of these people, what they're facing, is we have this whole tip culture going on, and it's, I am not going to, they people expect tips in every place, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think there's some areas of customer service you should not be expect a tip. I think for hairdressing, especially if you're paying, a certain salary, I think a tip should be an optional. I don't think you should ever be forced to tip. A coffee shop, if I'm walking in there and I am, the person has a good attitude, I will, leave a couple dollars tip, not a big deal. But there's some places, if I'm walking in to pick up my food, like if I go into a fast food joint, no, you're just picking, there should not be a tip. I've heard some doctors' offices are asking for tips now. It's like, are you kidding me? There was a thing. I saw a thing on Facebook. I have no idea how accurate this is. I don't know if it was just a setup with the person they're going off. The receptionist is refusing to give back the guy's credit card or debit card because he wasn't going to pay a tip. Uber drivers, if you don't give them a tip, refusing to let you out, which is a hostage thing. Like I said, I don't know how much of this is truth, and how much of it is just people are trying to get hype for their TikTok or YouTube channels or whatever the case is. But to me, it's kind of gotten out of the way. And by the way, I do believe in, if I was to get an Uber, I do believe in giving them a tip. I do believe in giving, if somebody is delivering my food to me, they're going. I've done food delivery before, delivering pizzas. I firmly believe, yes, give them a tip, because they're really putting wear and tear on their car to get you their food. And a lot of places you have to use your car. Okay, and that's just the end of it. So, in a lot of areas, giving waitresses tips, I understand all this, but I can also understand the attitude people will have dealing with a grumpy customer. Okay, and it's what happens. Okay, and like I said, there are some people who can let it just be water off the duck's back, and it doesn't faze them at all. And there's people who take it very personally. So when I tell you, food service, very hard. Okay, for most people, I think that should just be a starter job. You're out of high school, or you're still in high school, and you need that work experience. I'm all in favor of that being, a starter job. Okay, but there's a lot of people out there. When I was truck driving, I ran into a lot of people at different warehouses. They were the most rotten attitude in the world. Like, I was interrupting their day by making a delivery, literally. Maybe I got there and it's 30 minutes before lunch, and they were all mad. Well, you're interrupting our lunch. It's like, well, I'm sorry, I'm here when I was supposed to be here. I was told to be here before 12. I'm here before 12. It's literally how it is. Okay? And it's at the end of the day, it all boils down to, I think it's the attitude. Thanks to social media, thanks to these channels, like the Travel Channel, Travel Channel. There's a few other channels where you just see these people and they got money. I mean, it seems like they just have all this money for doing very little. Social media is huge with that. You're always seeing people, just flashing this money around. And I'm going to tell you right now, 90% of those people who are flashing all that money, and I'm being generous by saying 90%, are probably broke. Okay, they're trying to get followers, they're trying to get subscribers, they're trying to get people to come in and buy a product that they're representing. Maybe it's cologne, maybe it's a car brand, a brand of car that they happen to be showing off, some clothing, jewelry, whatever the case is. They're promoting something, and they're trying to get your attention so that they're going to make it look like, now, this is the lifestyle I am living, and I'm able to buy all this different stuff. When in reality, they're broke. Okay? They're just flat out broke. So what it is that we need to do? I think today we need to start doing more of big things, showing that a lot of these influencers are not who they say they are, and they're broke. Okay, that I firmly believe that is what we need to start doing. Okay, exposing these influencers who they really are, and that letting these kids know you're not making that much money doing it. Okay, the other thing is too that over the years, especially when I was in elementary and high school, college was it. You were destined to be broke and penniless if you did not go to college. And even back then, I'll be honest, it was starting to get pricey. But if I had chosen to go to college, if I did certain jobs, during the summertime and during the school year, I could knock down a college that I wanted to go to. I could have knocked down my tuition to about $6,000 a year, very easily. I chose a very different route. I went to a seminary. I went and I did some trades over the years. So, with that being said, probably if I didn't get married, I'm not dogging marriage right now. Those are going to be some other videos to talk about. I hold marriage in very high regard. I know a lot of people who got married right out of high school and they're still married today. I'm 50. So we're talking 30 plus years that they are still married. And that, to me, that's phenomenal. I got nothing but the highest respects. And if I remarry and I needed advice on my marriage, I would be going to them. Okay? But we still have the problem of people having this attitude at work. I've heard people complain about they'll go to like McDonald's, they'll go to a Burger King, Starbucks, and they're going in to get whatever their food or their drink or whatever it is, and the staff act like you're bothering them. I've had that happen to me too. I've gone to restaurants before where I was literally about the only person in the restaurant, and the wait staff treated me like I was bothering them. Okay? The attitude behind a job has to start changing. There used to be a tremendous amount of pride about a job, having a job. When I was in school, a job was what it was. It was a sign of independence. It was a sign of, I am not taking all of mom and dad's money. I got money now that I can use to buy my own stuff, what I want. And we don't have that anymore. And we got a lot of kids who don't want to have jobs. My kids, I had to pressure my kids into going and getting jobs because that's the attitude anymore. We don't want to work. So, with that being said, in today's world, we have to start, I think if we want to see an improvement in the workforce, we have to start changing our attitude about work. Now, that does not get employers off the hook, all right? I want to explain that. Like I said, there are some horrible employers. I've had horrible employers. I'm probably one of a few who are very anti-union. I am someone who will, if it comes to a vote where I work about having a union, I'll be voting against the union. That's my attitude about unions. I think they cause more problems than what they're worth. But I've also worked at places where they needed a union. The environment was that bad. And I shared the story before. I had one employer in particular. I go to work and, we're so far behind, you need to come in 2 hours early. We all show up 2 hours early. Boss doesn't show up until 15 minutes before the actual time we normally start. And that whole time we were having sat out in the parking lot waiting for the gates to unlock. That's like I said, stuff like that. Horrendous working conditions. And like I said, there was places that, hands down, they needed a union. Other than that, I am very against unions. I'm a firm believer in, you pay me what you said you're going to pay me. You treat me the way you said you're going to treat me, and we won't have a problem. So, with that being said, let's try and figure out ways that we can change our attitude. Let's try and help this next generation change its attitude about work. Get them an understanding that just because this job is not what you want, just because it's a job that you don't like, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. Okay? We have a lot of options out there now. Okay? I've known people who've worked jobs. My uncle, last I knew, he worked 40 jobs at a grocery store as a meat cutter. He loved every moment of it. He didn't make 40 hours. I think they had him work like 38 hours just to keep him under that 40-hour mark, but that's what he did. And he did it for years, and he loved it. That was his job. On the other hand, it's, I've also known people, just like myself, we've had multiple jobs, but at least with that, I feel that gives me some experience to tell people, okay, this is what you really need to be expecting when you go into the job force. So, now, I really don't, usually everything on here is a bit Bible based. I really have some biblical thoughts on it. There's a lot of different scriptures in here where, talking about employers and employees and their attitudes. And I'm not going to really get into it. because some of it talks about master and slave, and so I really don't want to get into that issue right now. But to everyone out there, yeah, let's start figuring out how do we help this generation that's going into the workforce change their attitude? What can we do to help these people who've had these jobs that they feel are just dead end jobs have a better outlook? Okay. To me, a lot of it is a disconnection from God. A lot of it is a lack of contentment. A lot of it's also a lack of thankfulness. Okay. I'm extremely thankful to have a job, the job that I have. I am very thankful for my coworkers that I have. I'm very thankful for everything. I have they have not done me any wrong. So I have no desire to just pack up and go. I have no desire to try to, demand raises. I've gotten annual raises, and usually about every other year they will give out, because it's the way my company is structured, about every other year, there is a regular raise on top of the raises that I get right now. And I only have a couple more years of those type of raises. And then I have to rely on if I want more of a raise, I have to wait for the cost of living raise. But with that being said, I want to say God bless all of you. And let's continue trying to figure out how to help people be just, have a better attitude about the job. If it is a bad job, perhaps help them find something that is better. That's not going to be such a grind on them. Or perhaps just help them have a better attitude about the job, so that it doesn't feel like they have to take it out on everybody. And this is a relatively short video. There's a lot to unpack on here. I understand there's some, mental illness that can be involved. There's other things that can be involved that can affect people on the job. And a lot of this, I think we can talk about it another day. And so I'm not trying to dismiss a lot of this. I've heard of the whole phrase going postal. I grew up with that, where you had disgruntled employees going in and with pew-pews, and I feel silly saying that, but YouTube algorithm, I feel like I better be careful about what I say. So yeah, let's figure out how to make it better. Try to have better, help these people have a better attitude and not feel like it's, this job is the end. Especially in today's day and age, there's so much availability out there with the World Wide Web and the internet. I think we need to just really be focusing on, what else can we do outside of the job that we don't like. Okay. Just remember, God is with you. God is not going to make you feel, put you in a situation that you cannot get out of. If this job is as bad as you think it is, maybe it is time to move on and find another job. Okay. If not, trying to figure out how to be a positive light for your coworkers. Okay. That being said, God bless all of you. And I'm really, like I said, I'm really looking forward to maybe down the line we can all just help figure out how to help people. I just not feel like their job is the end of the world. God bless.